No, not even close. 3% is the publication rate in Africa. 3% of all the articles that are published come from Africa. Clearly, very, very, very low. Our focus is to try and build that and double that in the next 5 years through the Library of Alexandria. I want to give you a very short overview. I'm an epidemiologist, and I began a large multinational project in the 1980s involving 155 centers in 70 countries across the world. One of the things I found in terms of traveling around is that when I went to developing countries and go into the libraries in developing countries, the books are 15 years old, the journals are like 30 years old, and how can we ever expect Africa to compete if you don't have access to the literature? So the approach that we took, and also not only access to the literature, how can you teach the next generation? And so what we began is we built, after I had finished this project, we built a large project where we in fact built the global health network through NASA. And as part of the global health network, we had about 50,000 people, and we collected a very simple idea. Well, if you don't have access to teaching materials or content, you're going to be a poor teacher. And in Africa, at that time, basically teaching was very poor, not because of the teachers, but because of lack of content. And so what we set up is a very simple system of basically where we developed, and this I met Vint a long time ago, we basically created this network and collected the best PowerPoint slides. So if I had your PowerPoint slide, if Eugene's PowerPoint slide on Russia and diabetes, I could speak about Russian diabetes. I don't know anything about it, but I could speak about it. So basically we shared PowerPoint slides, and it proved to be, in a very short period of time, we produced about a 10-fold increase in training in global health in Africa. Just a simple methodology. And one of our lectures, for example, in terms of how this can go viral, our H1N1 lecture was seen by 50 million people. So it's very, very, very rapid. Well, as a result of this, right after I started this, I went to the Library of Alexandria and walked into the Library of Alexandria and said, "Oh my God, this is where all my work has to be. This is where it has to be at the Library of Alexandria. This is perfect for this." And so I started writing to Dr. Serageldin, and he thought I was nuts because I tend to be very persistent, and I got 3-4 messages a day, and finally he responded back, and I went over and talked with him, and we saw that we're talking on exactly the same thing. Following this, what we decided is to do something even greater, and looking at the power of PowerPoint and for beginning into teaching. And what the Library of Alexandria did is they created an incredible resource for the world called the Supercourse of Science. And the Supercourse of Science is a collection of I don't know how many, it had 163,000 PowerPoint lectures in 6 major areas of interest, and we began to focus on that in terms of the future. So we very rapidly developed this. Now, when we're looking at Africa, the basic question is, why aren't people publishing? I mean, it's a very simple concept. And one reason is resources, but the reality is that there's a lot of what we call frugal science. My science of epidemiology is very frugal. We count dead bodies. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to do in terms of counting dead bodies. And there's a lot of other sciences that are frugal that people could do it. And also, there's actually quite a few scientists in Africa too in terms of doing it. But we came up with a primary reason for the lack of scientific productivity in Africa. And this is, you can use this, please use this. This is my word. I created a word. I'm so proud of that. No epidemiologist has created a word. I created a word. Well, the word is statophobia. And basically what statophobia is a very simple concept. It's fear of statistics and not having access to experts that can help you out with statistics. And so with statophobia, we see this in this extremely important publication because 80% of the time an article is turned down is because of bad research methods and statistics. So we've created a research method Library of Alexandria in Egypt, which is, well, we'll be talking about this, but is really an incredible, impressive source of research methods, materials that people can use for free. It's not only a virtual library, we're building it into a book library. So why don't I stop there and have Dr. Serageldin start to present. And Dr., I'm quite proud. I'm not going to do long, involved introductions, but here, Dr. Serageldin is the father of the Library of Alexander. Dr. Cerf is the father of the internet. And Faina is, well, she's I don't want to call her mother. I mean, no, but she's talked about it. But Faina has been developing this work with Eugene and I, and I consider myself the father of statophobia.
The son of statophobia.
Okay,
thank you. Of them. And we have hundreds of thousands of people that have been identified in universities throughout Africa and also the Arab world. Right now, as you know, the situation is disastrous in Iraq, in Syria, in Jordan, in Yemen, in Somalia, in Sudan, in Libya, etc. And there are people there who are trying to keep schools running, trying to keep things running, and under incredibly difficult odds. So geographically, we said we're going to focus first on Africa and a little bit on the Arab world, which is outside of Africa because the situation is so bad there. And then thematically, these are the 6 areas which we are looking at. And so we're organizing in each of these themes communities of interest, people who would be likely to be interested to get to connect with each other. And we would recognize individuals within these by our communications with them. And ultimately, these people will be creating again, virtually, what was created at the scale of the ancient library. So that's the intention. We believe that it's an exciting time, the dawn of a new age. We want to be working with the artisans of a better future. So I always say, dare to dream and be bold. I say that to everybody except Ron said, quiet, I think it was too far, but for the rest of the people, I'm telling them, yes, think up. You know, collaborating all together, I think there's so much we can do for a whole generation and for the whole world. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to
making a few little observations, but also how do I get my slides up? It's a blank screen with nothing happening, and it's a Microsoft thing because I didn't know anything about it. Here. Thank you. Okay, so first of all, I have to tell you some secrets about these people. Ron is an epidemiologist, right? So he wants to be intellectually contagious. That's what he's and of course, he's very interested in statistics because that's very critical to anybody's research. And as you were talking, Ron, I was thinking about these 2 books that I often refer to. One is called How to Lie with Statistics, and the other one is Lies, Damn Lies, and Statistics. So maybe you'll be able to refresh us on what to think about that. And since you mentioned PowerPoint, I'm fond of observing that power corrupts and PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. Because it sort of forces you into a kind of constrained discussion. Anyway, oh yes, and then there's the other thing that you worry about is, and that's the difference between vision and hallucination, and sometimes you want to be able to distinguish between those 2. So let me start out by making an observation. We have for a long time been able to archive static material. So cuneiform tablets, which weren't intended to be preserved for 5,000 years, but it turned out that they were clay and there were fires and they got baked and they turned out to be well preserved.